So Kyle, why don't you climb up that ladder if you can, and let's take a shot at inside the kettle. So this kettle was a yogurt maker that I had the manufacturer reconfigure. I had him put a cone bottom on it and put 2 motors instead of 1. It was originally, again, for making yogurt. So this does not look anything like what a yogurt maker would look like. So as you can see, I have 2 different motors, 2 different sizes, 2 different horsepowers. The bigger motor is driving the sweeps on the outside. So you can see that there's a bar that goes around the outside and sweeps everything, pushing it in. And it's also sweeping the bottom cone and throwing stuff up. Then he's got an impeller, actually 2 impellers in there. And those are spinning against each other. And then you've got a huge air coming up the center of the cone bottom as well. So you have multiple actions of what I want to call soft colliding. So it's hard to see in this picture, but the top impeller is about, what do you say, 16 inches above the lower one, Kyle?
Yes.
So you have about 16 inches difference between the 2 impellers, which are opposed, one spinning one way, the other spinning the other way. So this creates what's called soft collision. So soft collision is like if we were in a pool and I tried to punch you underwater, you would feel me punch you, but it wouldn't hurt. So this is the concept on how to brush off all of the humics, fulvics, and living organisms off of the organic matter, so you can get them into suspension. And then when you're suspending them with this much oxygen, they'll recolonize the tiny little particles, and now you've put them in a condominium. So you've given them food, water, and cover so that when you do apply them, the colonization rate goes through the roof compared to just a liquid. So there's a company called GOT Brewers. They're pretty well famous. Elaine backed them for a number of years. And they basically, you blow air into a bag of compost that's underwater. And basically what comes out of that is what we call dirty water, where with this machine, you're making chocolate water. Like you hold this water up and you can just see it's full of turbidity. So each one of those tiny little particles gives you a huge advantage of colonization over just throwing the organisms into a hostile environment. So from here, he's going to gravity feed back to another screen, which we're going to determine what size he actually uses based on the equipment that Robbie's making right now. So that this is a vibrating screen. And the reason why it's so important to vibrate this material, first of all, it helps suspend or helps to pull out any things that are too big that you don't want. They'll get trapped on top of the screen. But there's this interesting thing called resonance. So when you find the right frequency, and these concrete, flip that lid back so you can see the vibrator, the rubber. So these vibrators are made for the concrete industry. This one's actually made for something different, but similar to concrete. So it bolts the outside of a form so that you get all the air out of the concrete. They come with variable frequency drives, VFDs, and that allows you to increase the vibration or decrease the vibration. That's that little gray box right there at the bottom of your right screen. So what I found over the years is you can find this place called resonance, where all of a sudden the water just falls through the screen. So basically, remember, this is clumps of like, mud. And so how do you get the water out of it? Well, this is why I used this technique instead of other methods that I tried in the beginning, was because I wanted to get the water out of it as quick as possible with the least amount of work. But what I didn't realize I was causing was I was stimulating the electrons and the protons. And what that does is that magnetically charges these tiny little friggin' particulate so that when they hit the soil, when they hit the sand, silt, and clay, they pull them together and bond into instant microaggregates. And the only way I discovered that was when I was experimenting with the product in early development phases. I noticed that, I did all this work at night and I came in the next day and it was all clotted together. And I'm like, how did that happen? And then, so I started playing with throwing sand and silt and clay on top of it. And what I noticed was it aggregated. So I give the benefit, or I give a lot of the benefit to the magnetism, but also by creating those tiny little pockets, Now I'm protecting the bacteria or that little clod, that little condominium, so that it can produce even more biofilm to create even more colonies to expand, and make bigger aggregates. So that was a side benefit of using vibration as a method to dewatering compost after it had been, immersed. So there's got to be some questions. So fire away. And Kyle, why don't you go make yourself comfortable down there? Be careful getting down.
All I'm thinking is that I'm glad Illinois is legal for cannabis, because I think you can make some amazing bubble hash with that operation you got going there.
You know what's funny, Av? I was blessed enough at the second regenerative cannabis conference that I co-hosted or co-founded to be there with Frenchie Cannoli. And this was up in Humboldt. And Frenchie needed to ride to San Francisco. And someone told him, Leighton's leaving. He's got to fly out early in the morning. So Frenchie came up to me and said, hey, can you give me a lift to San Fran? I'm like, yeah, no problem, brother. Absolutely. So I got to smoke fucking hash with Frenchie driving down from the mountains, 3.5 hours. And we talked like schoolgirls. And so he was like, I was really, incredibly blown away by this technique you talk about making compost. And I go, yeah, it's funny, dude. I got nicknamed the compost hash guy, literally. And so I explained to him my vessel and how I created it. He's like, oh my fucking God, I could make bubble hash with that. And so I'm pretty sure that he used this concept to create that machine that he and his beautiful love, Mrs. Cannoli or Madam Cannoli.
Jennifer.
No, it's not Jennifer, dude. It's
Kimberly. Sorry.
Anyway, Frenchie and I had a fucking hoot. We were laughing our asses off talking about this shit and a lot of other things. But you're absolutely right. That could be easily converted into a hash making machine.